welcome to Posh Towns.
Your rang, my lord.
Alright, welcome back to Posh Towns, the show where we shed a light on some of the nicest and most expensive towns around the UK. We thought you guys had seen enough turds lately, so it's time for the pristine bowl you've all been craving. Today, rather than a county, we're off to the affluent area of the Cotswolds, which actually runs through 5 separate counties: Gloucestershire, Oxfordshire, Warwickshire, Wiltshire and Worcestershire. And it spreads over 800 square miles. And let me tell you, it is posh here. It's full of market towns with yellow stone buildings surrounded by rolling hills. This area really is beautiful, and we couldn't wait to get exploring. Narrowing this list down just to 8 places was really challenging, so look out for our honourable mentions later on. To help us narrow down this list, we set a cap that the place must have at least 1,000 people living there. And ultimately, we've done this list in order of the house prices on Rightmove for the last year. So 99% of what you'll be seeing today is eye-wateringly unbelievable. How could prices go that high? If you are in the other 1% though, and don't know what to ask mummy and daddy for your birthday, then you could treat this as a shopping list. But before you do so, making these videos is extremely expensive to do. So don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe to help Turd Towns thrive. And a big shout out to those who have already done it, it's really appreciated. Now we've been told that we punch down too much on Turd Towns, so today it's time for a Mike Tyson uppercut to the upper class. I'm sure they can all take a joke though. And like Jack Whitehall famously once said, sticks and stones may break my bones, but screw it, I'm with Booper. Number 8, Tetbury. Starting off our Cotswold travels, we went to the Gloucestershire town of Tetbury. It's based on the site of an ancient hill fort and an Anglo-Saxon monastery. Tetbury is a town with a very evident historical past. It has a population of around 6,500 and it's actually the second largest town in the Cotswolds area. Tetbury used to be a fairly inexpensive place to live. Well, like I say, comparable to the surrounding towns. That was until the 1980s when the then Prince Charles moved in and suddenly the area doubled in price. I'm not sure if the doubling in price was just down to Prince Charles, but if anyone has any more suggestions, then like our new king himself, I'm all ears. Most of the buildings, as well as the people here, have remained unchanged since the 18th and 19th century, and just walking down it you can feel the character. They have some odd activities that us mere mortals without a trust fund or a royal bloodline just wouldn't understand, like the Tetbury Woolen Sack Race. On the last May bank holiday every year, participants are given a 27kg bag of wool to carry up and down the steep Gumstall Hill between the 2 pubs. The women are given a 14kg bag instead though. Come on, haven't Tetbury heard of equal rights? Looks like the attitude hasn't changed here since the 18th century either. Princess Anne also lives around 6 miles away, meaning at least the royals can regularly meet up. Not at the expense of the taxpayer. I mean, it's not like they have many scheduled family get-togethers anyway. One thing that does stand out here though is a modern dump in a historical setting. It's the Tesco superstore on the edge of town. Like a Tory MP wearing Nike Force Air Ones with his tailored suit, it just looks out of place and it's a ridiculous attempt at trying to be young. It really does take away from the aesthetic here. Honestly, I remember Tetbury looking better back in the day. It does look a bit scruffy around the edges now. But compared to a lot of the towns we visited, this place is actually nice overall, with an average house price of $455,000. That actually compares well to the surrounding towns, and it would be a good place to get your foot on the golden ladder of the Cotswold real estate. Number 7, Bolton On The Water. The second town on our list is Bolton On The Water. This is an iconic town. Everyone pictures it when they think of the Cotswolds. This town is set within an official area of outstanding natural beauty, and it's easy to see why straight away. It has a population of just over 4,000 people and an average house price of over $561,000. This small town based in Gloucestershire really is the quintessential British posh town. The centre of the town is a designated conservation area, and Bolton On The Water is regularly referred to as the Venice of the Cotswolds. We could see this comparison instantly. Boutique old-fashioned shops selling trinkets, flowing streams of clear water from the River Windrush running through the town, with neat arched bridges to cross over, and loads of gormless old white people flocking in daily during the summer. Bolton is home to the best performing secondary school in the Cotswolds, the Cotswold Academy, which has been highlighted for its student behaviour and engagement. Let's be honest, I can't imagine the school kids here are in touch with the real world schools, where the kids spend their time smoking behind the bike sheds or drinking in a field. Which is a shame, because there's plenty of lovely fields about. At the top of the town, there's the amazingly detailed model village, which was also given a Grade 2 listing in 2013. You may recognise the village from the music video for the Oasis song I'm Out of Time, which is quite ironic because the people here look like they ran out of time 20 years ago. Once a year, Bolton On The Water hosts a medieval game of football in the shallow stream itself, using the bridges as goalposts. Now I don't know what medieval football is, I imagine they might swap out the halftime orange for a whole chicken and a pint of mead. I just hope the losing team don't get beheaded. Honestly, it's nice here, but I wouldn't want to live here. It is so damn busy. Current tea from 300 BC was actually found in Bolton On The Water in 2021, proving that they did indeed have Stone Age settlers. To be honest, that's not much of a surprise, as some of them still live there to this day. Number 6. Morton In Marsh. Next up, it's Morton In The Marsh, another Gloucestershire town with another relatively small population of just over 5,000. It is served by its own train station and has various bus links to the surrounding towns and cities, and has bigger supermarkets than its neighbour from Venice. We can see both sides to these differences. Do they make Morton a more practical town to live in and commute from, rather than just visit? Yes. But does this also take away slightly from the quaint posh town look? Yes again, we thought so. However, with an average house price of $620,000, it seems like practicality is just as important as image, and Morton hits both of these criteria perfectly. You can pick up some feisty birds here too, with a bird of prey centre being based less than 2 miles from the town. Rumour has it they're trained to swoop in and attack poor people as they enter. Although, if it's more the sweeter old bird you're after instead, then you're also in luck, as the Great British Bake Off's Pre-Leaf lives in Morton, and come on, you can't get much more of a quaint posh town definition than that. This is further backed up by the ridiculously low crime rate of 3 per 1,000 people. It is said that J.R. Tolkien took inspiration from the Bell Inn for the famous pub in Lord of the Rings, the Prancing Pony. And with most people that I saw with white hair scrambling around on their walking sticks, I'd imagine you got the inspiration for Gandalf here too. I'd say on the whole, Morton had the least nice image of all the towns on this list, but this is ranked in order of price, so I can't really argue with it. To be honest, I didn't like it that much here. The whole place just felt like a giant car park, but I don't know why I'm worried about it. It's not like I'll ever be able to afford a house here anyway. There's a huge market here every Tuesday too, and a direct train route to London Paddington for those of you wanting to visit further afield. It's the largest open-air market in the Cotswolds, selling various arts, crafts and antiques. You can pick up many of their most popular items: Boris Johnson candles, Rishi Sunak commemorative plates, or their bestseller, a 30-foot oil painting of Margaret Thatcher riding Jeremy Corbyn like a horse. Number 5. Stow On The World. And I already know what you're thinking. Do all the posh towns have on or in the middle of their name? I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It does happen, but it's a slightly more subtle way of showing your wealth than naming money in pocket, so let's give them that. Despite its size and small population of around 2,000, Stow, as we call it, is one of the best known Cotswolds towns for people to visit. This market town is the highest of the Cotswold towns. At the height of the Cotswold wool industry, Stow was famous for its enormous annual fairs where up to 20,000 sheep could be sold at one time. Nowadays, this has become the Gypsy Horse Fair, which attracts loads of visitors twice a year. The gypsy horses are paraded and sold, and it's quite a spectacle for visitors and locals alike. I mean, it clearly would be a novelty for people who live here to see people who chose to live their lives on the road rather than a 5-bedroom detached. Top Gear were filming in Stow in May 2014. That's just what a town showcasing out-of-date traditions and views need, a visit from Jeremy Clarkson. Seriously though, there is clearly an old posh town factor here. Even the Yobs in football shirts have been swapped out for Cotswold Cricket Museum shirts, until it was permanently closed a few years back. An average house in Stow would cost you $636,500, or one nicely written will from a rich family member. If you're looking for a smaller dwelling, however, there is also the famous Hobbit door, based at St Edward's Church, and this is also rumoured to have been inspiration for J.R.R. Tolkien. There is a lovely market square here, but I can't help but feel it just looks like a giant car park and would have looked a lot better 100 years ago. There's lots of nice places to eat, including Michelin recommended restaurants, but looking at the prices online, you'd be better asking for the William, not the Bill. Number 4. Lechlade. Next up is Lechlade, based near RAF sites Brize Norton and Fairford. Lechlade is a small town with a population of just over 3,100 at the southern edge of the Cotswolds, and it's another area of natural beauty. I'll tell you what, this trip has done 2 things already. Firstly, it's made me realise how lovely some places are, but it also serves to show how truly awful some of our previous destinations have been in comparison. There's lovely walks around Lechlade, namely through Riverside Park, and the sheer amount of photo opportunities is staggering. Lechlade is surrounded by lakes which make up the Cotswold Water Park. And no, this isn't the Chessington World of Adventures for anyone over 80 grand a year. This is the network of lakes running around the Wiltshire-Gloucestershire border. Historically, Lechlade has had fantastic links via river, road and railway until the train station was closed in 1962. I'm sure some of the people here remember it like it was yesterday. It's also known as Lechlade on Thames, but I'm aware that naming convention might be getting on nerves. So just like the term Brexit, I've shortened it for you. Lechlade is the highest town that boats on the River Thames can still access. Now this might all sound really lovely, but considering how expensive it is here, this place stinks like stagnant water. I don't know if the wind was blowing a certain way or it was the lakes or the River Thames, but the whole place stank to high heavens. Apparently, Kate Moss has owned a mansion nearby since 2022. Well, at least if she ever rekindled her love for Captain Jack Sparrow, he would have easy access to the town. The houses themselves go for an average of $656,000, so living on a boat might be a better option. With the annual music festival, which used to be host to the likes of Status Quo, being cancelled this year, and then falling into liquidation, and with 40% of the population being over 60, you would usually fear that the town would be on a downward spiral. I mean, look how many turd towns we've seen go the same way. But being that this is the Cotswolds and that life is much slower and more comfortable here, I'd have no worries at all. Even people with a medical record longer than Boris Johnson's WhatsApp history will be fine. Number 3, Chipping Camden. 8 miles away from the larger and more populated Morton In The Marsh is the North Cotswold town of Chipping Camden. Along with Stow, it's one of the smallest places in terms of population today, with a population of just over 2,300, so it qualifies by the skin of its privately treated teeth. By the time I arrived in Chipping Camden, the weather had turned. That's the British summer for you, so I couldn't stay here for very long, because otherwise my camera would be broken. Chipping Camden is known as the Jewel of the Cotswolds, and it's easy to see why. The 14th century arcs visible through the high street make it one of the most beautiful towns in the UK. The town is home to various festivals, with May 2023 alone hosting the Literature Festival and was followed by the Chipping Camden Music Festival, though I very much doubt that Snoop Dogg has ever made an appearance. Since the 17th century, or the good old days as the people here refer to it, they have hosted the Cotswold Games, with challenges such as race running, shin kicking, and for the most experienced residents, tax dodging. Now in all seriousness, it does look like a lot of fun and it really brings people together, and the games are closed with a huge ceremony and bonfire on the final night, where they burn the poor people from nearby Gloucester. The high street and the town itself was also listed an official conservation area in 1970 to preserve the ancient aesthetic, and looking at the state of the decrepit old rich people walking around this town, they seem to be doing well. Number 2, Blockley. Set between Chipping Camden and Morton In The Marsh is Blockley. A slightly higher average house price puts Blockley in ahead of Chipping Camden on our list today, with a gaff here setting you back an average of $671,000. That is a private school graduate's dwelling if I ever saw one. I doubt the people here have ever had to go twos on a cigarette. Blockley is one of the most unspoiled and charming area in the Cotswolds, and it was the main centre of the silk industry. I know, and you thought wool was posh. And there used to be as many as 6 silk mills in the town, which is a lot if you consider its population today of only 2,500. If this was a list of the best places to live in the Cotswolds, I would probably have Blockley at number 1. I love this place, it was probably the nicest place I've ever been. You just know a place is nice but it still looks good in appalling weather. And on top of that, it's not touristy like all the other places. I mean, they don't even have pavements here. Tourists, not welcome here. The posh people are just trying to get on with their lives by making sizable annual donations to the Tory party. Blockley is home to the privately owned Mildean Gardens, a 2.5 acre private garden which is open to the public from April to October. This huge area, which looks like it could be Jacob Rees-Mogg's backyard, is split into various different sections including a cricket lawn and herb and fruit gardens. Further proof of its community spirit are the Blockley Village shop and cafe, which were funded by the local community and the National Lottery Fund. They sell mainly local produce from a 12-mile radius of Blockley. Blockley is on various known walking routes, the Heart of England Way, the Diamond Way and the Monarch's Way, meaning you can walk east to Batsford Village or north to Chipping Camden, giving it more links and contacts than Rupert Murdoch. The transport links to Blockley aren't that great, but I'd wager that the people here prefer it that way, due to its quiet setting, obvious beauty and quaint nature. You just know the people here love to smell their own farts. Blockley is used as the TV setting for crime drama Father Brown, which if you haven't seen it, it's about a detective who's also the vicar in a small town, and he goes around solving crimes on his pushbike. Sort of like an old-fashioned Tory version of Luther. Now before we get into number 1, we've got to give you our honourable mention. Cirencester. It's touted as one of the nicest places around, and it's surrounded by expensive villages and towns. Cirencester itself actually falls short of this list with an average house price of just $422,000. I know, it pains me that somewhere falls short with a house price of over $400,000, but these are the big leagues. And whilst the surrounding areas are lovely and the town itself has an abundance of nice shops, there isn't going to be a Leicester of 2016 giant killing on our hands today. I almost also included Castle Combe with an average house price of $758,000, but it turns out there's only 300 people living there, so it doesn't count. The only other qualifying honourable mention would be Broadway. They've got enough people and an average house price of $527,000, which would put it at the 8th spot instead of Tetbury. But Tetbury contains a few of the most expensive streets in the entire Cotswolds, and we just thought it was more of an interesting inclusion. Number 1. Burford. And here we are at the top posh town of the Cotswolds, the Oxfordshire town of Burford. And it's actually our smallest population today of only 1,500 people living here. Make no mistake, my fellow turds, this place is posh. Whatever your definition of posh is, everyone would agree that Burford hits the mark. The sort of place where even the local gym is called James. Burford High Street is on a steep hill lined with a famous unbroken line of ancient buildings, including houses and independent shops swooping downwards. Although, whilst the hill is steep, it's not as steep as its average house price of over £1 million. Yep, you heard me, we've broken into the 7 figures, and that's as an average. Imagine the size of these houses, the perfect size to host a barbecue, game of croquet, or even a lockdown party. There's a famous medieval bridge here with 3 arches over the River Windrush. The water is much calmer than the new resident and Titanic star Cape Winslet is used to, and with the size of the gaff around here, I doubt she'll have to share a room, let alone a door. Every May there's a commemoration of the rebellion with a colourful fete featuring speeches and debate, and celebrating freedom of speech. It really does sound like your Tory uncle at the dinner table on Christmas Day going above and beyond to exercise their freedom of speech. If this was a list of how nice I thought the places were, Burford would finish number 8, because I didn't like it. The whole place felt like one giant traffic jam. People were desperately trying to park their cars, because they were too lazy to park on the outskirts of the village. Every time someone parked their car, the whole traffic was held up through the village. I'm not sure if these roadworks were making much of a difference. I can imagine it's always busy here. Let me tell you, it's not worth it. Just skip this place if you're going on a tour of the Cotswolds. The lazy obese slob tourists who visit this place can't be bothered to walk an extra 200 metres. And as you walk around this place, all you can hear is the sounds of gasping and wheezing as people desperately try to make it up the hill. Burford is also home to the Spectre Ghost Tour, where a costume guide will take you on a walking tour of the area's most scary places. I really wouldn't know what to expect on this tour. I mean, what do the people find scary here? Being financially cut off from mummy and daddy? Liberals? Or the reduced section at Tesco's? Well, there you have it. There's our 8 posh towns of the Cotswolds. Did you agree with our choices? Have we missed anywhere out? Do you also partake in the smelling of your own farts? Put it down in the comments. Don't bother writing to your local parish councillor. Let us know it in the comments. In our next video, we're dropping from the heights of conservative utopia and we're back to the depths of the turds. So keep a lookout for what area we're covering next. And again, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to help Turd Towns thrive.